Really excited to be joined today on another edition of the Film Room with Kennedy Todd-Williams from down at Ole Miss. Kennedy, first and foremost, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you again too, dude. It's kind of wild thinking like, I don't know, it's kind of hitting me today. I was like, wow, it's gonna be 2025 soon. The season starts up in like less than 40 days, I think. First practice just happened yesterday, day before. Um, I have no idea how we're here, but I mean, how is it? How are you feeling with that? Knowing like this is year five last year. What are vibes for you headed into the fall?
Bittersweet. I told this, to my coach a couple of days ago when we started practice. Time flies. Fifth year. Very excited. It's a lot to look forward for this year. But just taking it all in, soaking it all up. So yeah.
No, absolutely. I think that's kind of like the fun, but also like difficult part of basketball is like, especially with I don't know, like making the transition over from like working primarily in the NBA to on the women's side. Like, it's just there is no downtime really. It is nonstop. You go right from as soon as college season's ending. Like honestly, I'd say spring and summer is more busy for college coaches than the season. Like and then you go right into this. So it's like you go from you're playing AAU, and then it's like, okay, cool. Well, now I'm in college, and then pros happening all around at the same time, and it doesn't stop. So it's been a little bit wild. I wanted to ask too, like, have you gotten to keep up with Marquisha at all? Like, just in terms of like what her experience has been like getting to the pros, and going straight from college to that, and just in general.
I haven't because she's been on the go.
Yeah, yeah.
But whenever I have a chance, I definitely catch her games and stuff. And she just, you could just tell, like, she's just really growing, for herself, both on and off the court. But I check in with her, here and there. So she looks good, and I'm just very proud of her.
No, absolutely. I think part of what's fun too is just like looking back at this last year in general for Ole Miss. I think, I mean, obviously there are multiple players. I think everybody in the SEC has a chance to play pro, but like in terms of looking at W level, like you, Maddie, and Quay, like all watching last year, I think all three of you really came into your own as as you hit kind of the tail stretch of the year.
Yes.
Um, I wanted to ask about just in general, like making that transition over. I know obviously you're very happy coming to Ole Miss, and it was a great move for you, but like it felt like kind of making that change of finding yourself, but also like obviously there was injuries happened that kind of threw things up in the air and made everybody have to change their roles up. How did you handle that to kind of start the year? And obviously we'll hit the tail end in a bit as well, but like
Yeah.
kind of figuring that out and morphing what you can do around that.
Yeah, I will say last year, like it definitely was, a transition period. You're coming in, especially me, coming in, I've been out of school for 3 years. And so learning a new style, coaching style, programs, new program. And so, I transitioned, but we were successful. I had to find my way, but, you talk about, the different types of, things that happen, during the season with, injuries or just in general. And so, roles were switched. And we took that head on. I think as a whole group, I think I will say I will commend, our group, just having, being able to, divert from like, all the things that have happened throughout the year. And so, we took that head on. And so, I was just very happy that I'm here, learning, a new coach. I learned that, she's as passionate as I am, and so I had to learn that as a coach, as a player, having that coach, and I love her for that. So it's been really good, but I'm just glad and I'm excited for this year. I think last year, like I said, was a transition period, and I went through that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think in terms of like talking to that transition too, like it felt like you really came into your own, and honestly the entire team after the Mississippi State game. I don't
Yeah.
know what the change up was, but like what did you kind of feel was biggest with that? I know you guys had like kind of a week off before the next game after that. So was there something like a team meeting or like just kind of like what helped you guys kind of refresh and refocus on, what the end of the year could be?
Yeah, after that Mississippi State game, before that, like we had a couple meetings as a team. I think that was definitely our shift in our season. I think we had lost like a couple games before, And so I think we just all committed to, just really giving it our all, and really buying in, and, just coming together as a group. Some of our leaders on the team, including myself, like I think we just, took it upon ourselves that, we were just going to finish the season off strong, and yeah, just really commit and buy in to the process.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I think you look at the end of that stretch too. So you guys went 12-4 in the last 16 games.
Yeah.
You were scoring in that stretch 14 points per game, 6 boards, almost 4 assists, nearly 3 stocks, shooting really well from the field, from three, getting to the line a ton. I felt like part of what was so interesting in this last year too, and like again, part of what everybody had to do was just playing more like with the ball in your hands. Like obviously, I think the offense is just so different from what you guys did when you were in at UNC, and in some ways, it's like when you talk about adjustment period, it's interesting because like so much of I feel like Ole Miss's offense is being able to create for yourself and create for others, right? But it
Mhm.
takes time to grow into that and being able to play out of that style. And I feel like this is kind of the most that I've really gotten to see you play out of ball screens like that at the college
Yeah,
level. And it was
I
again like
agree.
an adjustment period, and you really and we're going to go through it in film, but I felt like once you hit that midpoint in SEC play, like you looked like a completely different player operating out of ball screens. So what was
I
that
agree.
like for you though, kind of coming in like, okay, cool, like I have to take on so much more of this and then kind of figuring that out. It's a lot easier said than done to do just in the middle of a season.
Yeah. I would just say like the support that I've gained, with the coaching staff, Coach Yo especially, instilling that confidence, and we had so many meetings, and so just building that relationship with her, kind of breaking things down for me, especially coming in, and with the roles being having to change. But like I said, like we took that head on, and I got in extra work, and just really just becoming more comfortable, in the role that I needed to step into. And so yeah, I just got more comfortable, and as the season went on, like I just felt like it was just like a light bulb,
Yeah.
um, and so I when that feeling was an amazing experience, for that to happen. So yeah,
Yeah, and it was really fun to watch from my
yeah,
perspective as well. Just like because I know the type of player you can be, and like getting to see that, like you mentioned, like seeing the click is like really
yeah,
dope.
like wow.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But outside that too, and just kind of looking forward, like when you look at what this summer has been for you, what has been kind of like primary focus, primary work headed into this year?
Yeah, my primarily focus point has been, pace, really slowing the game down,
I love hearing that.
being, and we watch WNBA clips all the time, especially in practices, before practice. And you're able to see so many different players, like, sorry, yeah, so a lot of WNBA players, just slowing the game down. We watched some of the Aces clips, and how they play with so much pace. They're not always going fast, and so that's something that I've been working on. And another thing is just really just keeping everything tight. My three ball, and making that more consistent. And just keeping everything tight, ball handling especially, because I'll probably be playing the one, two, or the three, and so just keeping everything tight, honestly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love you bringing up pace because that's something we're going to dive into a lot. Like I think
Yeah.
that's one of the big areas of growth for you, especially being a player coming out of ball screens more and operating with the ball in your hands is a big area that I think it takes a lot of players time to figure that out because
Yes.
pace of play changes where you're at and who you're playing against. So it's just a lot of kind of figuring that out and fine tuning wise. But you mentioned your jumper too. And I think it's really interesting because for me with your jumper, anytime I watch it, I feel better about your jumper than like numbers maybe indicate. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so like what has been the biggest part of finding more consistency with it for you? And what does that kind of look like in starting to rep things out?
Yeah, honestly, just reps, going in with my position coach, game like shots, um, the release points, just being more confident, and just staying in the gym, honestly, for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we're gonna run through. So we'll start by running through some clips on your jumper because I want to talk about your mechanics and kind of like you mentioned with some of the consistency stuff. Um, Before we do that, though, while I'm pulling this up, again, just looking ahead into this next year, like you mentioned, in terms of kind of playing one, two, and three. I think you really excelled doing that last year, but in terms of like being able to be a player who's playing multiple positions and doing it well, what has been the biggest thing for you in finding that? Because I don't, again, like it's a lot easier said than done to just slot yourself in multiple different spots in Excel.
Yeah, for me, it's just doing whatever the team needs me to be, or to do, being versatile, and just being the playmaker that I am. And like I said, just being the team, whatever the team needs me to do for the team.
No, definitely. And I think playmaker is probably what I would use to describe you too as a player. Like if I could only use one word, I think that's what your game is on both ends of the court is being a playmaker. Um, but again, like just kind of like looking at everything moving forward. I know just from talking to you before, I know that you're somebody who wants to be a pro someday. So like when was that maybe first instilled in you and who have been people that have been like really big in your ear and helping kind of push you in the right directions with that?
Yeah, I've had that goal for a very long time since I was a
Yeah.
kid growing up. Obviously it was to play D1, but obviously to go to the WNBA. But definitely my mom, my family, they're my backbone, and so just all everyone just supporting me. Friends, family, but especially my mom and my sister for sure. Yeah.
I love that. No, I can't tweet anything about you without your mom or your sister tweeting it. So,
Yes, yes.
agreeable. But no, I love that too. Especially like I know your sister is in coaching too. So like, are you
Yeah.
able to escape a group chat without having everything broken down after a game?
Not at all.
No, but wouldn't have it any other way. I'm assuming. So
Right.
yeah. Before we dive into the film, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor for this video and series, State Champs. State Champs is a community-based streetwear brand with a brick-and-mortar sports coffee shop located in Kent, Ohio. Check out the link down below for a t-shirt collab we did, their catalog of apparel and accessories, and stop on by in person to catch a game and a cup of coffee as the WNBA postseason unfolds this fall. So I want to start off with looking at your jumper.
Okay.
Because like you mentioned, I think a lot of, I mean, becoming a good jump shooter is like having consistency, right?
Yeah.
But I think so much of what's difficult with that is like consistency just means something different for everybody. Like
Yeah.
I think one of the things that a lot of people kind of fall into that I've seen in like player development is like people try and recreate somebody else's shot or tweak somebody's shot when in reality most of the time like um what somebody has is what they have to work with. And you can make some small changes to it, but like it's just about like again, getting it to be as consistent as possible for that person. Um so just starting off, like I think just showing out of the corner, kind of get that little hop step in,
I
high
love the hop.
release. Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to ask about because
Yeah.
it's I felt like you started to use it more this year. It's not
Yeah.
every shot, but like how do you kind of feel that out? Is it just something that just kind of happens naturally for you in game, or is that something you kind of want to get to having on every shot?
I would like to have that on every shot.
Yeah.
I think it's just the timing of it, the pass. Great pass from, I think, yeah, Snetta.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, whenever I'm in rhythm, I feel like the shot's, going to be knocked down. So everyone knows that. My coaches know that. My teammates know that, and just so they're able to see that, and so just slowing down the timing on that. So
No, absolutely. Um, this one, I like this because kind of just getting into more of like when you talk about pro style stuff, like pistol, anything pistol on the side, like you have to be able to knock that down because then teams can't go under on you.
exactly.
Um, I wanted to ask too, because like you get that hop in a little bit here too, but like looking just in general, do you feel more comfortable going left or right?
I like going to the right. I like
Yeah.
going to the right a little bit. Yeah, because I feel like the left side, getting that, turning your body, is sometimes, it feels off.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's repetition, and that's something that, I've also been working on as well as like coming off of both, other, the ways that you go, to feel more comfortable into the shot. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's kind of one of the things I was going to hit on because I feel like at times this last year is like, okay, sometimes you go left to right, other times you go right to left. And it was like, again, like I think kind of continuing to iron that out is going to be really fun to see because I think that's a big part of, continuing to get to that. Um,
yes.
and like, I mean, again, like talking about, like we mentioned off top, just being a playmaker, somebody who can play 1 through 3. I think part of what really opens that up is being a player who can do this. Like it seems simple, but like
Mhm.
relocating, getting to a spot and punishing a defense for what they're doing. Like that's
Exactly.
as soon as you get that cut in and the zone opens up on the back end, you know that's open. You know Maddie's driving, and you get an
Mhm.
open shot off of it. And like it just makes it that much harder for teams to play off of you or to do even just like zone up or do anything
Yeah,
when you're doing that.
I love that you said that because, we talk about being available to, to our teammates. And so I think, even Quee coming down, for the fill, just being available, everyone's moving, especially on the drive, so being available and being able to knock those shots down, something that we do every day in practice is, very helpful for our team.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of my favorite parts of your game is just your ability to cut, relocate, like know
Yeah.
where to be. I think that's again like when you talk about adding off ball value. I think that's so big on just like always being able to be somebody who can make a play, and especially just open stuff up in general for other people. Yeah, so this is one of the ones where you go left to right here without the hop in. So I like again like it's funny
It
because like
does.
you watch through, and like it's not saying it's a different shot every time is the wrong way to put it, but like seeing you like
Right.
make multiple shots, doing it different ways is interesting because I feel like it's a big part again of like kind of ironing that out. So when you like are watching through shots with a position coach on what you want to improve on, what are the things that you're kind of like looking at ironing out and continuing to get more consistent with?
Staying low on my shots or like, whenever I come in, like obviously right here, I'm standing up, but
Yeah,
I feel like it'd be easier if I was already being ready on the like before even the catch. And so that's something, that I'm trying to work on is staying low and always being ready and, hunting the shots, before I even catch it because, I'm standing up, but like, if I drive, I feel like she's going to be able to, kind of be already there. And
yeah,
so, just staying low and, attacking from that, maybe give a, a pump fake, off that. And so just reading him, I mean, that was a good read,
yeah.
especially because they're in zone, it's tough to kind of attack. Well, yes, I mean, sometimes it's tough to
Yeah,
attack
there's not really like I
certain
agree.
zones,
Yeah,
but
there's
yeah,
not really like an angle here to attack, and I think it's right. Just like take the
exactly.
shot, they're giving you the spot, and I think it's
Exactly.
interesting. Like you talk about, I love you pointing out about like getting low, right? Because I think
Mhm.
right here you see
And then I
as
dip.
soon as you catch the ball, you're dipping into it, right?
Exactly.
Which isn't bad, but like the point is like if you can cut down the timing, I think that's so
Mhm.
big in like being able to get more
That
shots
split
off,
second.
get it off like that. Yeah, and I think that's like when you talk about somebody using a hop stop, like so much of that is like okay, you get that energy transfer going without even having to do that. And I think again, just like that you recognize that as really big, I think. Because it's not easy to always see that in yourself sometimes. And I
Right.
think it's interesting too, because going into your next stop, and I'll ask you before we even run through this, do you feel more comfortable off the catch or pulling up?
Pulling up. I
I
love
was
pull
gonna
up.
say pulling up as
Yeah,
well, because
yeah,
I think you remove so much of the ability to like even stop and think about it. Not that I think you're somebody who hesitates as a shooter, but like I feel like just here, like you don't
yeah,
have to worry about the dip or getting in anything because that's just part of dribbling and moving forward and getting into it.
exactly. Yeah, sometimes when I have that, I can tell the bounce that I have before
Yeah.
game, especially in warm-ups, and so, like, especially off, it's the first quarter, um, 3 minutes in, and so, that bounce that I have, like, down now, that gets me flowing, and so it's beautiful to see because, like, I know it's funny because I know, the hop that I have and
Yeah.
the bounce into the shot and,
Yeah. No,
the runaway,
absolutely. Because like your release point is high, you get really good height on your jumper, and like that's I mean, I believe who's contesting you is like probably 6'2" or 6'3". So
yeah,
like
no,
I mean you get really good movement on a jumper. And you're for what it's worth too, your pull up numbers are a little bit better than catch and shoot.
right,
And I think that tracks in watching you. Like, you're just really comfortable being able to get into it. Um,
yes.
but I mean, I think again, like such a big part of your game is being able to be a three-level scorer and obviously continuing to grow into that, right? But like I think being a player who can, if you get guarded, when you have teams that pressure you out the three. I love this. You're really good with rejects, and you're great at
Yeah,
like you
I love rejects.
can see that the hedge is coming, and you just automatically reject it. But again, getting into that mid range quick stop, um, it makes it just really difficult for teams to not come out and play on you, right?
Mhm, I agree. Yeah,
This one, okay, so it was interesting. Watching anybody against Missouri was really wild because, especially with how they played you, it was like almost watching. I know you watch like just a lot of basketball in general, but it's like almost watching like NC State, like how
Yeah,
they played like pack line.
very packed.
Obviously not to the same level, but like I think when you have something like that, because I think that was probably an adjustment for you this year, right? Especially as a ball handler, like seeing defenses come out and just saying we're going under on everything, like no matter what. How
Hmm.
does that kind of change up how you can make decisions and what shot selection looks like too? Because I think so often people will watch a team and be like, "Oh, well, why is that the shot? Why is this?" And I'm like, "Because that's what the defense is. That's all that's open." And there's
Exactly.
like, I mean, I watch this and I'm like, there is no passing window here. Like, what is there? There is nothing unless you're okay. If you're skipping it to the corner, fine. But like for the most part, and like obviously this goes in, it's a good shot. But like,
Yeah.
how does that kind of change things up for you and just the way that you're looking to make decisions?
Yeah. So in the game, I don't know what I was thinking because, like, if you think about it, like you have the three, you have the pull up, and they're just playing a pack. It's very packed in. Everyone's in the paint in this clip, and so in the whole game actually.
Hmm.
But it does change because you're not, the driving lanes aren't, in the front door, what we call it. And so then I'm reading and I'm like, okay, wait, they're not even biting on anything that I'm doing. Like, and then I'm like, I have the shot right there. So just reading the defense, honestly, for this one,
Yeah.
um, and, being playing the, I sometimes I focus on just, running the play, but, seeing more in the openings that I can have with the ball in my hands. That was just, I was trying to set the play, but then I found, my opening into a shot. And so just taking what the defense gives you, honestly. And, obviously we were successful for that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, 100%. But I think it's interesting too, because again, like I think so often people make decision making seem like kind of nebulous, right? Like it's just,
Right.
okay, well, it should be the same everywhere. And I think, no, I mean, it all depends on
How
who
the,
you're
yeah.
playing with, who you're playing against, how they're playing you. Like there's just so much more that goes into it. Um, I want to dive into next though, because talking about just yeah, just playmaking in general. I think obviously in transition, I think is somewhere that you really excel. But I also like one of the things I really like about your game is how you use both hands. Like right here, I think so often this is like not that it would be wrong, but this is a chest pass for most people. But
Right.
you kind of just do one hand exchange, and this is something you do a lot in your game too, which is why I pulled it. Like just kind of doing like quick like hand change and then getting the ball off.
Hmm.
When did you develop that? Is that something you really ever thought about, or is it just kind of something that happens for you? Because not everybody has that, and I think it is so big in opening up windows that maybe aren't there for other people, and just being able to kind of again like create something that most people maybe don't have access to.
Yeah, just kind of zipping the path. I mean, yeah, I guess I have been doing that pretty, for a while now. Um, but it just gets there quicker,
Yeah,
I mean, if it doesn't, it doesn't. But, I just, try something new just to, see if it can get there, especially because the defense, and you also have to think about what how the defense is playing. You can't make a chest pass from that, and
yeah,
especially if you're in transition. And so just seeing that opening, that post player that's running back, I could tell there was a window, and so just shooting that through, just trying new passes to see what works. And so, yeah, it was almost like a little no look because Maddie's running the floor, and
mhm,
so just able to seeing that come available. So
yeah. No, absolutely. And I like what you point out with the chest pass too, because like that's my whole point with this. Because like this is to me, this is not a pass that's like readily available to most people. So like being able
right.
to get off with that is again just really big in opening that up and creating something that isn't typically there.
Hmm.
Um, So here too, I love the quickness on this. And obviously, again, you get the zip off one hand, but just I feel like you're so good at just always having your eyes up and kind of seeing what
Hmm.
you need to.
Yeah.
Especially developing out that chemistry this season, with a new group. What was that like and kind of finding that and being able to get to that? Because I think you guys were so good at being able to convert defense to offense this year.
Yeah. Just, we're a transition team, and so we're gonna run. So, those stills, like I know to read, Maddie loves to run the floor, and runs the floor really well. So you want to reward those types of players. And so with this new group, just, understanding and, as we continue to, build our chemistry and just really work on, who we are as a team and, how we play. And so that's, that's us.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm excited to see more of it too. Um, yeah, here I just love again, like we talk about like off ball value, cutting, seeing things like just lifting and making that 45 without, giving your defender a chance to kind of like set, I think is really big in opening up. And again, it's just a quick driving kick, but it's an open shot because of that. Um,
Mhm.
and it's just the little things like that I think are really big in your game.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of players like sometimes sleep on that, or just they just want to stand still. But there's you create so much, by just cutting and moving, and yeah, I've been I've been doing this for now, 5 years now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
It's a
you're able
big
to make,
part of your game being able to
you're
do
right.
that.
You're just able to make those reads, and so and then just finding that available teammate because, like I said, a lot of players just want to sit and watch, the person driving, and so just being able to identify that, and Zakai did a really good job at coming back, to get an open shot. So yeah, just moving together.
Definitely. Especially playing off of like I'd argue Maddie and we were like two of the very best drivers and not just the SEC but like D1 last year.
Yeah.
Um, getting a sense for like playing off of them, like how long did that it feel like that took for you, and what was kind of like maybe the biggest aspect of that and figuring that out? Because again, like it's one thing to play off of players who can drive, but like I mean it was just different, and I feel like still like I think that Quee season was one of the most underrated in the entire country last year. But yeah, just kind of like getting used to that because it's again just like different styles and everything.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I would say it took a minute. Obviously, coming in new, and they have already been on the team, and so seeing how big, and I get excited whenever they drive and are able to just execute everything that we're doing. Because then it creates lanes for other people. Creates so it spreads out the the defense. For other players to kind of come in, but also just their dominance and just being able to get to the rack, and have the defense collapse. Then it's able to open up so many options for everyone else. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I was able to learn a lot, and kind of play off of that. And see what works well for them and our success for our team. So.
Mhm. No, definitely. Um, yeah, kind of continuing along the lines of just like being able to kind of keep things moving. I think you really excel as a post entry passer too, and like that was one of the things that I felt like really grew for you throughout the year. Being a player who, especially like you're somebody who's in the slot a lot, so being able to like kind of work side entry stuff. I think people look at it and like, oh, that's simple, but it's not as easy as I think people tend to believe it is, especially with how much length there is in the SEC, how much everybody can kind of rely on post play at times too. Um, what was kind of what would you say are like the keys for you as being somebody who's a good post entry passer?
Um, just reading the defense and really taking advantage of, first off, personnel.
Hmm.
I know that Rich, anytime Rich has, you could see her numbers like get that ball in. And so, just understanding your players, understanding like what the defense, is giving you. Can you run that real quick back?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So you see, I mean, there's a driving lane, but then like I see there's an option for Rich to work, and so just having her go out there and bang up there, because yeah, she wasn't even paying attention to that defender. So yeah,
No, absolutely. And again, you get into that one hand kind of overhead again.
yeah,
Because again, I think one of the issues too with post entry, so often somebody either tries to loft it too high or they straight line drive it. And I think again, just like getting the right touch on it is easier said than done. So it's
right.
big time to be able to get that. This is like kind of diving into more of like looking at ball screen playmaking too, which we're going to get into in a sec. But like I think this kind of puts a lot together. So much of your game is when you can play an early offense in transition, you look to push because right here you're getting the screen, but reject, see if you can get a driving lane. You keep eyes on you by doing that, pull back out, and then just quick overhead. I think being able to again just like doing things quickly, making the right plays, right decisions, like that's so much of. I mean, you watch. I know you watch the W a lot. That's
Yeah,
not every team is on in line with that yet, but that's where it's continuing to head, right? And I think being able to be a player who is doing that is so big because like obviously positions still matter in basketball, but
yeah,
like every player needs to be able to make decisions on the court. And I think that's
exactly.
just yeah, it's a big point.
I agree. Make it the simple play.
Yeah, exactly. But also like being able to make, strong plays that are simple is big
Yeah,
time. Um, so this one, you guys come out in kind of like a flat and then run Iverson for you into an empty. And again, love the reject. You're so good with the reject. Um,
I do
and
that a lot.
you do it. It works though. Like I feel like you get some of your best burst off of a reject too. And then one of the things that I loved about your game this year, particularly as you grew as a ball handler, was like your ability to draw fouls. And I
Yeah,
think some people look at drawing fouls as like a bad thing, but I think I don't know. I want somebody to draw as many fouls as possible, right?
yeah,
Especially if you're on my team. Like I don't care how annoying it is for fans. Like just get to the foul line because that's free points.
exactly.
Um, Especially with like, was it kind of like a conscious effort for you in getting to the foul line, or was that something that just kind of came naturally with the ball in your hands more?
I think it came naturally, just staying in the gym. We work on this a lot last year with, just kind of mushing and getting into the defender.
Hmm.
It's because it's either, I'm going to make it or I'm going to go to the foul line, and so,
Yeah.
you don't want to take have a soft drive. And so, just really coming into that contact and really making it natural to get into the body, because now I'm knocking down 2 shots for a free throw. So, you
Hmm.
know, yeah, just making
Yeah.
that adjustment and just
No,
coming into contact.
absolutely. And for reference, so in March you were averaging 6 free throws a game. The entire like back 16 games of the season after the state game, you were averaging five, which is like that was like well, I think your like full season numbers were like 3.5 or something like that. So it was like a big jump.
Yeah,
And being able to like really find that comfort and keep going from there.
yeah.
So this is again like getting into that, and I think this is like the point of the season where we're starting to feel like okay, you're really starting to find that comfort and that
Mhm.
patience.
Yeah.
And again, that's really exciting stuff because like right here, you call for the clear out, know what you're getting to, reset, get back again, hit the in and out, and then this. I mean, this is honestly one of my favorite possessions from you this year. The nutmeg was like awesome. But like this is when you talk about like getting into that pacing stuff. I think you really started to flash so much of that down the back end of this season. And like again, just getting to that kind of stuff is I mean, that's big time for being able to play more, like playing more as like kind of a combo guard instead of being strictly on the wing.
Mhm. And then I think, Maddie does a really great job at, just positioning herself. Okay, I didn't come off. Okay, she's going to get me right back again. And
Yep.
so just being able to read that. And I think throughout the season, you're able to see like, us kind of come together as a team, and just really make those reads, without even having to say, oh, come back again, so it's just like
Yeah.
that chemistry was there. And so, just being able to make those reads and then, yeah, that pass,
It was pretty
I was
nice. Yeah. And I love that you used the baseline too to get to it because I think again, like something earlier in the season, I felt like there were some times where you could get forced baseline, and then that could
Mhm.
be like a travel or just like
Right,
kind of getting
right.
caught. And I think being able to like all right, cool, I'm going out of bounds a little bit, got to get the ball moving. I think really good to be able to see that.
It's
Um,
probably my favorite play, can't
yeah,
lie.
yeah. Um, Wait, this one or the past one?
This one.
Yeah, this one's pretty nice. Getting to that in and out again, and then the underhand. It's so interesting because like I liked what you brought up about talking about getting into like working on getting into contact and playing through that because I think like part of what is like so good about your game, but also is like exciting for me to think about developmentally. Like you're so good at doing the difficult things, right? Like I think this underhand, like I think people get underhand like oh whatever, like that's a tough
That
scoop layup, right?
that is.
You place it really well, you're getting contested, like that's money. I look at stuff and I'm like, when you get to doing the simple things easily, I'm like, I can't even imagine what your game's at, right? Because to me,
Yeah.
I think, and that'll be kind of like looking at some of the next stuff, like, continuing to, like, I like this drive a lot, obviously, again, like getting into a reject, um, and then go for the floater. And I think, like, I know it's a miss, but like, I think the floater is going to be really big for you moving forward. Cause like,
Yes.
I don't know how you feel, but I think sometimes like your pull up, I know your pull up's money, but like, there are times where I'm like, okay, cool. You're like, you hit a point where it's like, all right, this could be a floater and it might be a little bit more
Hmm.
efficient. Cause if you get to a certain point where you're so deep in the paint, it's like,
You
it's
got
really tough to get it off. And then your momentum
absolutely.
carries you and it's like, it's difficult. But,
Yes.
um, has the floater been kind of like a bigger thing you're working on, or
It,
because you
it
started to
ha-
flash it more towards the end of the year?
Yeah, it has been. Like you said, like, just reading that, you can't come in and, get so deep. And that comes with touch and, repetition on that.
Hmm.
But, sometimes, especially when I come up, because that defender number three, she was, maybe had her hand in the way. And so, taking that extra dribble, she's going to get her hands like because she is a good defender. So kind of reading that, but also, yeah, definitely that's been an emphasis. This off season is kind of working on that. Not getting so deep in the paint. For a
Hmm.
jump shot because that's just not ideal because that's going to be a
Yeah,
block shot. So
but yeah,
if
no,
we
and
can
it's
get to if we can get to like the SEC, for a pull up or mid paint, that I think that would be good. But when I get too deep in, that it's either a layup or it got to be a floater. So I
yeah.
agree.
No, absolutely, and it's not meant as like a bad thing. It's just I think it's
Right.
it's interesting because like we're talking about like I know like you played guard and stuff in AAU and like you were playing more on the wing once you first started in college, and I think it's like it's just a totally different adjustment like playing guard in college compared to doing it in AAU, and same thing with going to the next level. Like it's each level there's just like kind of different things you have to add and look at, and um, especially with finishing, I think like it's just I mean when you're in high school and you're that level of an athlete and you're like just like you have a good frame, you're bigger than a lot of players at the same position. Like you can get away with things that are just like different, once you get
Right.
to a certain level. Um, right here too, this is one of my favorite possessions too, just in general, like because I think again the patience, but also I felt like you really started to excel at like handling ball pressure as the year went
Mhm.
on, and you
Yes,
started
I
playing
agree.
point guard more. And I think you see that here at like there honestly I felt like some of the areas that you maybe struggled with most earlier in the year were when smaller guards got up into you. And I think
Yeah.
right here you do such a good job of just handling somebody being in your grill, but then working to get to an open lane, getting
Mhm.
that hesitation is huge too, obviously, in setting this up. And then just getting that high glass finish is really tough.
Yes.
So this one is, like you talked about with getting into the context. I think I love that you mentioned it because to me that's probably your biggest area of growth for like being
I agree.
an even better finisher is like right here. Obviously, it's tough because you get short closed a little bit with how A&M's playing, but I'm like, okay, if you slow it down a little bit, like you talk about with pacing, because I think so often people think, all right, if I go as fast as I can to the rim, that's going to be my best shot. But I
Right.
think for you, with the way that you get guarded at times, like it's if you get this defender onto your hip instead of trying to go around them and you go into them and then up, I think
Mhm.
that's going to be so much stronger as a finish. And like that, you're already pointing it out again. Like it's awesome to hear because like being able to get to that is so big. Because I think again, like so often people think, all right, I just have to get there and then it's in. But like no, it's like really you gotta make sure that you're set and like have everything going right. And yeah,
I agree. I agree. That's a really good point.
yeah.
Um,
Somebody who got really good at that. I mean, you mentioned watching W players. Kelsey Plum, and her ability to like, well, number one, just like making reads in and around the rim, I think has been like her biggest growth probably the last 2 years.
yes.
But then like using that ability to get in and then up, I think is like
Mhm.
so big because like so often again, like people will try and go over or around, but the in and
Yeah.
up is just like that, especially as like a smaller guard, which obviously you have quite a bit of size on Kelsey, but like it's just different stuff. But then this is again just when I like looking at your game, I think like we're talking about like you're building up that foundational piece of like continuing to get better as a finisher through contact, but you have so much of this stuff already. Like there are just not very many players who can like regularly take and make this and do some of that stuff off the glass.
Right.
I did want to ask too, just in terms of being a player who like I feel like you use the glass quite a bit. Is that something that is like kind of natural for you, or something that you got taught to do more of?
Um, it's something that I got taught, to do. Yeah, I think sometimes, yeah, your glass is your best bet because it's gonna come off. Either we're gonna have a rebound for that, or I'm gonna have a clean look at the glass, into the basket. Um, so yeah, just reading that, my best bet is just get it on the rim,
Yeah.
get to that box, and so yeah, that's what I focus on sometimes.
Yeah, and the hang time too is really nice. But and it's interesting too because like you mentioned, just get the ball on the rim. Like you guys were such a good offensive rebounding team. Like
Mhm.
it almost is like it's just better to get a shot up than trying to force something else.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
which I think is hard for people to grasp sometimes because like obviously you don't want to miss shots, right? But like
Mhm.
also like ingraining yourself like okay, I know that my teammates can get to that, and there's going to be a chance with that. I want to shift over to defense now too, because obviously that's a really big aspect of what you bring. And I think I want to ask before we even like start this one, what position do you kind of feel best guarding at? And I know like you can guard quite a few people, but like where do you maybe feel strongest at?
Like position wise,
Yeah,
guarding. Um, well, definitely the guards.
yeah,
For sure. Um, Sometimes the two, sometimes the one for sure.
yeah,
Um, but yeah,
yeah. No, I would agree. It's interesting. I feel like I feel best about you guarding ones. Like I think that you're so good at being able to
well,
use. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, no,
No, you're
I
good.
feel like I know what you're about to say, but especially the ones, being a taller and bigger guard, I'm longer than most point guards, because they are kind of short, some of them, and so just taking advantage of that size and then being able to recover. So yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's
No, that's exactly what I was getting into because I think you're so good at like you're laterally quick, you're pretty sound in terms of like being able to get around screens, you don't mess up your footwork and just being long, like I think you're really good at being able to bother point guards. It's actually really interesting because like I think so often people will look at somebody and they're like, "Oh, you should guard someone who's the exact same size as you." And I'm like, obviously you can do that, but I
yeah,
think your best traits to me are like when you can really pressure the ball and like give a point guard problems. Um, do you watch much of the NBA?
much of the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. I don't know if you ever watched Torrey Craig before, but especially when he like first came in with like Denver, you remind me a ton of him as a defender. Like somebody who was like, so he's like 6'7", so like wing sized. But he always would get like put on like when he first came to Denver, he'd get put on like point guards a lot and was like so good at just like being that player similar to you who can kind of like duck and bob around stuff and just like
Mhm.
make life really difficult on point guards. Which you do here. Especially like knowing personnel, like you can get away with going under screens on this one too.
Right.
Um, how do you feel about like screen navigation? Like where you're at with that?
As far as
Like
under
like how you've kind of grown in that regards or like, how you feel just in general about like getting around screens.
um, I feel pretty good. I feel
Yeah,
like, like last year being, in a different conference, you gotta think about the conference too,
for
just
sure.
all the players that you're, going against. Um, just navigating those screens and like, over, the over and under screens, and kind of I think we do a good job, as a program and with our defense, and so it's kind of it helps us, but it also like it bothers the person that is getting getting the screens on them, or has the ball handler. And so I think we do a pretty good job at just like adjusting, depending on the player, or the teams that we're playing. So yeah.
No, absolutely. So I phrased that question terribly. I just mean like in general, like I feel like it's something you're good at, but it was fun in watching
Oh,
like this year. Like there was so much of like you guys could really just mix up what you wanted to do. Like
Exactly.
you guys played a ton of like size players. You could switch, and you were very good
Mhm.
at it. Um, in this game, part of like I like debated bring I had first of all like cutting down clips for this sucks. Like I have like over like 50 clips most of the time when I first
Yeah.
start off on one of the film edits, and I try and get I got it down to 25 or slightly below 25. So it's an arduous process, but like I love this game against A&M because it's one of the games where you guys just like flat out really did not switch that much or didn't
Yeah.
look to. And I think I mean you playing against India Rogers, somebody who's like really shifty, can
Yeah.
score at all three levels. I think you see a lot in terms of like complex actions and looking at a team where, I mean, they try to run you off 1,000 screens per possession,
Yes.
right? But I think this is again like one of those possessions where you really get to show and excel and show things because like obviously you get hit by the head fake right here, but then we talk about like using your length to get right back in the picture.
Mhm.
Um, you're always staying aware and active, making sure that you're not getting hit by something else because then they run you off staggers and you have to catch back up on and be on top of that and obviously make that difficult. Then they try and
And then
get the
come
ball
right
back
back.
out as she relocates. Like I think again, like obviously this ends up being her getting into that pull up too. And I know like some I don't know. I look at this and to me like there's not really a lot you can do about that. Just the way that the screen gets set,
Mhm.
how quickly they come off of it. But like you work all of that entire clock to get her into a contested pull up to outside the free throw line. And like that's good defense to me. I don't know how you feel about this possession, but I think that's like I watch that. I'm like this is the Kennedy Todd-Williams experience. That's the stuff you want to see.
I agree. Just trying to make it chaotic as it can be. Because defenders, I mean, offensive players, like they want the defense to just sit,
Hmm.
and that's not something we do. And so I think just staying active definitely bothers them. And so she was able to miss that shot, but that's 30 seconds, of a great defensive, possession. So yeah, I thought that was a really good defensive possession.
Yeah, I want to ask too, just like having hosts like having like Rita and Carissa last year, like both could really play out on the perimeter. Obviously, both can really protect the rim. Um, how does like having that kind of uh, ability behind you open up some things for you to be more aggressive on the front?
On the defensive end, or
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, because I mean, their presence, first off, their ability to guard multiple positions and come out to the perimeter. I think that's something that's huge for us. But I think we also as a team do a really good job at guarding the ball. It's us against the ball. So I think they're able to adjust in many situations on the floor. So yeah,
yeah. No, definitely. And
really,
I
it's really great playing with them.
100%. And off that too, like just looking at this last year, I felt like, I mean, obviously we talked about the changes you had to make as an offensive player, but I feel like, I mean, so much of UNC was like playing a lot of junk defenses and a lot of zone, and this was like, I mean, it was like no, at Ole Miss you were playing man to man, and you're going
Yeah,
to get good at it. So
yeah.
obviously, again, like I know everybody's played man to man at some point in their careers, but it's like again, it's a different level. So what was maybe like biggest adjustment for you or thing that you were kind of proud of continuing to grow on last year?
Um, as far as like defense,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I would probably say guarding the post. Me and coach, had talked about it and watched film on, how I can be a better, post, defender. Kind of getting around and not asking for, help, on the
Yeah.
backside, just really just being tough. So she's really taught me that. And so now, I'm able to, use my body, use my quickness to get around. Especially this year now, starting official practice, I'm able to use that and implement that and not really shy away from, defending a post player. So definitely that. And then I would definitely say just like, the communication piece, it's a two-way street, with the
Yeah.
person that's, the setting the ball screen, that ball screen defender, and then me guarding the ball, just us communicating on that end has something that has grown for us, terminology and all that great stuff. So that's something, and just being tough, just making the smart play, not, fouling, for no reason. So it was a lot, this transit, this, process, and, the transition like helped me a lot, develop, skills that I'll definitely carry on, into the next level. So, yeah.
Definitely. Just a couple more to get into.
Okay.
Uh, Again, just like looking at your ability to guard down and put pressure on someone. I love like again, like right here, you get hit with just kind of like resetting a screen. And Lauren's a really good screener, so it's tough to get around. But I
Yeah.
love like this is part of one of the things with screen navigation that I really like. Like we talk about with finishing, I think it's kind of the same with screen navigation. Like if you want to, so often people think like, oh, I need to get like outside to get around. And I think
Right.
so much
No,
of like making it tough is get into and then around.
exactly.
And you help force the turnover because you just keep a hand on. And
Hmm.
like again, it's just little things like that that are so big in like making a turnover happen or keeping a possession from getting, I mean, forcing a possession get deeper into the clock. So I like that a lot. And this last one, another of them just like running a bunch of stuff. So they start handoff on the outside, which again, like you talk about that communication aspect and like handoffs in particular, I think give so many defenders nightmares because if you're not communicating,
Yeah.
that can really quickly be a guard going downhill or a wide open three. So being able to keep on top of that is big. And then obviously they're working back to get you screened again,
Hmm.
pulling back
Yeah.
out, and then just taking the quick jab using your length. Like I would ask off this too, like in terms of like being aggressive, like finding timing to do that. Like I think obviously this is a really great play. Um, was it how do you kind of balance that in your head a little bit? And like what is I don't know, like I mean what's emphasis like from the coaching staff in terms of like, wanting to be aggressive on the ball, but also like you mentioned not wanting to get fouls or, also still making sure that, you're kind of maintaining scheme.
Yeah. Not getting too antsy, like, staying compact, on the defensive end, but, being smart, if you can go for it, especially if the, the person that's handling the ball is not really paying attention.
Yeah.
But don't, yeah, like, don't gamble. That's something that we don't want to do, because that gives, that person a lane to drive, or, it just, messes up the whole defense. And so then we're in a scramble. But just really, really staying sound, and I mean, just keeping active hands, because a lot of ball handlers don't want to see someone being so active, and just in front of them, moving and stuff. So yeah, I would say that that's been the biggest thing for me. And our team is just just giving hands, because they don't want to see that. They want to see your hands down low, and not pressuring up on them. So yeah, we're able to get that still, and I think Maddie scored those 2 points.
Maddie does yeah,
At
sorry, I didn't
the,
let it keep running, but yeah, Maddie does indeed score those 2 points.
oh, doesn't, oh, my
Yeah.
bad.
No, she does. She
Oh,
does.
oh,
I
okay.
just I forgot to hit the button to keep it
Yeah.
going, but no. Well, that's all I have clip wise. I did just want to say again in general, like I'm really excited to keep watching you play this next year.
Yeah.
Was excited to see you come back because I know like there's even more to keep building off of, both as a team and individually. I guess just to kind of close out, what are you most excited about and getting to show this year as a team and as an individual?
I'm really excited, first off, for our new coaching staff. We had a new coaching change.
Hmm.
Our assistant coaches, we have a lot of good, good looking transfers, freshmen, and, some of our core players are coming back, which I'm very excited about. We have a good looking non-conference. And so I'm really just
Yes,
excited
you
to,
do.
yes, yes, no, for sure. So we've been seeing that. We've just really just been staying hungry, and, just continuing to work, because we're just going to take it one day at a time. But I'm just excited to win with this group, and really learn how I can transition my game into the next level. And so working on this, watching a lot of film is something that's going to be very helpful. And getting in with my position coach, Coach Imp, she's been amazing. So yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be an exciting year, and my last round, my last ride. bittersweet, like I said, but I'm excited to close it out here at Ole Miss. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You excited to tip it off in Paris too? I forgot
yeah,
about that until right now.
that's gonna
Like,
be
yeah,
that's gonna be so exciting. I cannot wait for that.
yeah. That makes two of us. Well, Kennedy, I appreciate your time as always. To everyone watching, of course, keep up with all things Ole Miss women's basketball. Really good season up ahead. And be sure to keep up with all things Kennedy's doing because she rocks. She's going to be really good at the next level. Be excited.